Man, I love that song, and I'm glad we finally got to it. If anybody missed it, this is of course Janis Ian at 17, a song that came out early 70s and 72, I forget now. I mentioned it in the lesson, but no, maybe 74. Anyway, right around that time. But just beautiful tune, and if you haven't seen the videos of her playing it, it's just great to go through YouTube and check on how she looked in the 70s doing it and how she looks in the 2000s doing it. This stunning little old lady, almost, not quite, but still. And the video I particularly liked of that was the one where she's on stage and talks about the song just very humbly. It's pretty neat. So anyway, that was one of the big hits from this week. There was a little glitch with it, but we finally got it back out today. And it is, so I should get really to the point. This is the news. It's Friday, October 28th, I think. That's enough of that. But there was a student review on Heart, of course, this week too. So the big news, though, is we have Mike and Matt and everybody behind the scenes have been working hard at getting everything really working smoother here. And you guys have probably seen the homepage by now. It's very clean and very little info on it. Well, important info there of how to get into the programs and things like that. But we took a lot of people's advice, and I think everybody's really happy with the way things are looking there. So homepage is nice. Now when you log in, of course, too, you get taken back to the page that you were looking for rather than sent to the homepage, which is really good for our longtime users that know specifically where they want to go. So that is a pretty cool thing. And if you take a look at the homepage now, there's another menu added across the top. So that's what we're trying to do, is get everything across those top menus and clean up all that stuff on the left that is getting a little bit unwieldy, he says. Wreaks havoc. Oh, I do want to mention that, by the way, too. I hope I get back to it. But anyway, so we have made it easier to get to a lot of things with a new menu added up there. We've got the guitar lessons menu, and right next to it, right now only on the home page, it's still a little bit under construction, a tab for theory, techniques, and styles that'll take you immediately to a lot of the theory lessons, the fundamentals, the chord solos stuff, the blues stuff, the country blues stuff, all that stuff that is not really songs but related, but really important things for playing the guitar, is now accessible through the theory, techniques, too many in that. Now just getting close to Halloween. Anyway, the theory, techniques, and styles menu. So it's looking, still a lot of work to do, and it'll be under construction for a few more days or week or two. But so that's what's happening behind the scenes. Now, of course, in the front part of the scenes, we had a week of mostly older stuff. It was kind of 70s week for me. So we had target lessons on Janis Ian at 17, and then went further back. I guess this wasn't 70s week, this was 60s week, and took a look at Donovan's tune Colors, which is on one hand very simple, and I talked a lot in that lesson about really just understanding the 1-4-5 relationships and playing it in whatever key you wanted. So it's a very simple song, sort of just a campfire song, but there was a lot in this that talked about understanding 1, 4, and 5, and more importantly, how to play it in an open tuning that he did originally. Originally done in an open E tuning. And again, you get into open E by using an open D tuning and capoing it to the 2nd fret. So that makes the song really, really easy to play. So that was our Donovan lesson, and that brought up a lot of requests for more Donovan stuff. And who knows, we might have to get to some. Played this on the news. Anyway, he has some beautiful tunes, and we will be getting to more of them. Now, the week started off with a song that many people, well, I'm not going to play it right now, but I'll tell you a little bit more about it. That John Lennon and the Beatles spent the summer of 1968 in a little bit of the summer. Actually, a relatively short time, because they pretty much got fed up with the Maharishi after a little while. Or he sort of became exposed as not as holy as they might have thought he was. So, but they spent the summer of 1968, part of the summer, like I just said, in India, meditating and hanging out with Donovan. As a matter of fact, that's part of the connection between those two songs, is that John Lennon wrote this song, Jealous Guy. Well, at the time it was called Child of Nature, because they were both exploring, John and Paul, were both exploring nature-related stuff, and Paul's tune came out, Mother Nature's Son. John wrote his, Child of Nature. On the road to Rishikesh. Well, anyway, I'm not going to sing it. Well, I just did. Stop! Stop me before I continue. So, so he had the chord progression and had lyrics that were about being in India, and it became Child of Nature. Well, a year or two later, he rewrote the lyrics, and it became Jealous Guy, and showed up on Imagine. So, fairly simple song, but we talk about a lot of different stuff in that lesson as well, and sort of how it came about. So that was the big news in the Target program. Jealous Guy at 17, and then, of course, Donovan. And a couple of student reviews broke out. A few little comments on that. That beginning part is still the same, is really, really tricky. And getting the exact right timing in there is something that I work with students on all the time. So it's challenging. So I'm glad that Mike uploaded a video of him working on it, because that was a part of in his. Everything was pretty good in there, just needed a little bit of work in that very beginning, playing, again, what is really, not again, because I didn't tell you this just now, but it's really done on the piano in Bob's version, but translates pretty well to the guitar. So that was one of our student reviews. And the other was our longtime Target member, Tom, who always tackles only the tough stuff, threw up the first version of Silver Wheels as we've been heading into our heart world. So be sure to check out the comments on those, because some good suggestions for both those guys in there. I am, of course, sitting here in the TG cabin where I shoot many lessons with students, and this week there were a couple of really cool fly-on-the-wall videos. One of them was with Sandy in her revisit to yesterday after I sent her away after lesson 1, devastated, because she kind of thought she had it down, and we had to like rebuild it from scratch, because she did have it down, but we had to now take it to a different level. Well, lesson 2 starts showing where the steps she took to get there. So I hope you guys have had a chance to check out the lesson 2 with Sandy working on yesterday. And then Ed, who again always comes up with great questions. This is the guy. Well, all my students do. And we started working on a drop D tuning version of Find the Cost of Freedom, and that turned into questions about 7th chords, which you saw some of that stuff before, and then this one turned into questions that revolved around 6th chords and how they're related to 7th chords and all kinds of stuff. So many of Ed's lessons turn into major theory extravaganzas. So I hope you had a chance to see that as well. That is, I think, let me check my list twice, because we're getting into holiday season. Okay. That's everything I wanted to talk about, mostly. Have a few really cool things happening next week, and I will give you a hint, because we went so far in the past this week, back almost 50 years. Holy cow, we went back 45, 46 years to Donovan. And, next week we've got a few newer tunes, and some of them are by some of the newer bands we've done. Some of them are by, at least one is going to be by somebody we have never done a song yet by, but we'll see how that goes. And again, this is a lesson that it sort of came in because one of my students brought it to my attention, and we worked on it really hard one night, and I thought the next day, you know what? I think all of our Target members would enjoy this. So keep an eye out for that, as well as some, I had alluded to the fact that we're working on a little bit more detailed program on finger picking, and that may be coming live soon. And I do want to answer a question that was on the forum, because I think it was in the colors lesson, I mentioned that my guitar, if I retune 2 or 3 strings, all the rest of the strings have to be retuned. And it's partly because it's so lightly built, and again I mentioned because if it were not a cutaway, the neck might be a little bit more stable. But on a really well-built guitar, the neck is designed to have a little bit of flex in it, actually a lot of flex. And when the tension of the strings the tension of the strings has to pull it into like exactly right setup situation. Well, when you change the tension of the strings by lowering a few strings to get into an open D tuning or something like that, that actually changes the neck angle enough to put the other strings slightly out of tune. So when I redo my tuning to get into some open tuning, I actually check all 6 strings, even if I just go to drop D. Not bad for losing that tension there. Anyway, sorry, I got carried away. Some of you might recognize that. It's one of my originals that is sort of buried in one of the albums. So, drop D tuning. Sometimes puts your guitar a little bit out of tune. I think I have taken too much of your time today, rambling on about guitar playing and cool things happening here at Totally Guitars. So I'm going to sign off and wish everybody a safe and sane Halloween weekend. Mixing and matching my holidays. I think we're supposed to wish that for 4th of July here in the States, but that's okay. That's the way it goes. Still have a good weekend, and I will be back next week with an update on all of the cool things that happened or will have happened by the time I see you next week.